welcome back to another video here on the From the Farmyard podcast. Today we are once again adding a new video to our series, which we have titled Our Farmyard Friends. So if you've been here before, then you know what's happening. This is the series where we invite a bunch of special guests, people that we know or have met, people who we call mentors, but most importantly, our friends, and we hope you'll call them your friends too. But enough from me. Let's let our special guest introduce herself.
Hey everyone, my name's Megan. I am your friendly, crazy weather driven. We've had crazy weather all throughout the country. I'm an infusion nurse at a hospital here in Spokane, Washington, where I live, and strongly with the background of oncology nursing. Been a nurse for about 14 years now. And yeah, I am into animals. We have a small hobby farm. I currently have about 16 chickens. I've got 2 livestock guardian dogs, 3 goats, and I have a flock of Sebastopol geese that I'm pretty obsessed with. And I don't know if that's so small, but we're trying to keep it down, you know? And yeah, that's a little about me. I've got 2 kiddos and a husband that's crazy supportive. And life is good, man. I love my life.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about like your backstory, like what kind of started you off, like say like, hey, I think I want to start farming or homesteading or the agriculture bug. Like what started it?
Oh, good Lord. It was pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, we decided to get chickens. And it was actually a dog. Let's say this. It was a dog. It was my dog, Aurora. She's my primary livestock guardian, and this animal is my soul creature. Like, didn't have to train this dog once with birds, didn't have to do anything. This girl is driven, she tries hard, like, just an all-around amazing dog. And here I am bumbling along, being all impulsive like I can be. And I'm like, Pyrenees. Oh, well, maybe I'll try this dog out, Didn't know much about it. Actually, turns out she's probably more Akbash than Pyrenees. We lived on like a 0.3 acre lot in a city-ish area, really rad little place called Liberty Lake outside of Spokane, Washington. And I didn't know a darn thing. I was green as a grasshopper. And so I get this dog, bring it home. The kids are like, oh, dog, a puppy. I'm like, a puppy, yay. And we actually bought the dog home and got it I've got a photo of the dog in a little dog bed with some chicks because I introduced them. And I don't think, looking back, I must have known that there was a bit of a correlation there. And true to my fashion, started out totally ridiculously not set up for what I was gonna do, but that's how it started. Aurora's about 4. Gosh, she's going on 5 now, you guys, and that's gonna be a hard one when I lose her because these big dogs, they don't live long enough,
Yeah, totally get that. My dog he's not a big dog, but he's gonna be 13, and it's just like we've had him for 10 years. We got him when he was 2. And there's just like this connection with dogs. Like I swear, like they just become like your literal best friend. Like when I don't know, maybe it's because they can't talk like humans sometimes. Oh my gosh, but like sometimes humans they just talk too much. Like dogs over here, I just feel like they always like they just listen. And I don't know, dogs are just they're a beautiful animal. They really are.
You can see them with their eyes.
Yeah, same thing with my dog. We're not well, we know how old he is, but I cannot keep the dates straight. So it's either 10 or 11, might be 12, but I don't think it's 12 yet. And he's, getting up there, but he's part boxer, Rottweiler, and Weimaraner. So he's very slender, loves the birds, loves everything. And just like my best friend in the entire world, like helped me through so many bad times. And I'm just like, I've looked at him so many times and just cried. I've been like, you cannot leave me.
That's this morning with the kids over breakfast. I'm crying. Okay, so little backstory on that. I'm 35 years old. I'm to the point where I am trying to figure out myself a little bit more and realize it. Well, turns out I actually have a mental disorder. I'm bipolar 2. And that was kind of a hard journey for me to go on and figure that out, because it wasn't growing up in a strict house. It wasn't exactly it wasn't encouraged to, there was like, you don't talk about emotions as much, and bipolar people, we feel big, like, and there was some judgment there, I guess, for lack of a better term. And yeah, so I don't know where I was going with that, but dogs. So, with my bipolar, it can affect things. And the biggest thing, if y'all have something like that, take your meds. It's important. And I want to take my meds. They've made my life so much better. And a dog, they're special because they'll never hurt you like you can hurt other people, or like they can hurt other people, because of the
dogs are just always there. They're just always there.
They don't judge you for anything. They're
my dog stares in my soul and silently judges me. I feel like his eyes just like stare. He locks in sometimes, and I'm just like, oh, what did I do to you to deserve this? Like, it's like stare down, and I'm like, okay, dude, like, okay, I get it. But I mean, yeah, they're beautiful creatures, and they were placed on this earth for a purpose, literally to be, I swear, man's best friend. Man's best friend.
Oh,
that's what it was.
For sure. So agree.
So how long have you been farming then, per se? Like, if you had like years and stuff, how long would that have been?
So this was like pre-COVID, back in June of 2019. So that's when I got Aurora and the chicks. We lost our first flock. Aurora was a baby, she was a little puppy. She didn't know what was going on. And you guys, this dog is amazing. Such a cool livestock guardian. And in Liberty Lake, the way our coop was set up, don't use chicken wire, everybody. I didn't use chicken wire on this coop. My husband made it like Fort Knox. But I was worried during one of our storms, because we do deal with the elements up here in the Pacific Northwest, for sure. Not as much as our Canadian friends, or, anybody north, like mad respect for those guys, especially right now. But I was worried my chickens were getting all wet, because if you think about it, moisture can invite things. It's a medium for things on a health basis to grow. And so, like, commonly with chickens anyhow, is you can get the mycotoxins, fungal elements that can really impact their health. And so here I am, smarty smart. I've got this tarp on the top of the thing, and we had chicken wire netting on just the top to protect from aerial predators. Well, common human error, the tarp and all the snow kind of broke some zip ties or something, or maybe no, come to think of it, we didn't have anything to protect from aerial on the top. I had just a tarp, and something happened where a herd of raccoon, or a family of raccoons, got in. And as a nurse, I don't ever want to hurt somebody. I beat myself up if I make a mistake. And I went out there, and one morning Aurora was going nuts. She's like, I don't know, probably like 4 months old. She's going nuts. So I go out there and I find my whole flock. Raccoons they're gnarly.
Oh no, for sure. They're such crazy creatures too, because they can get into literally anything. Those little hands, oh my gosh.
They've got like this brain.
I know. Because we had one like literally climb up a tree, like our coop's off the ground, okay, real high up. I'm so short, I can't even barely reach the door, okay? This raccoon climbs up the tree, swings over, grabs the handle, opens the door, pulls out one of my chickens. And I'm like, no! I was like, this was not, what? I've had this coop for how many years, and this has never happened. Why would they just like figure out, oh, door, open door, get chicken?
Oh, like, Regan, thank you. I'm putting carabiners now on my Amish coops. I don't care.
We need to get locks and then like digits, okay? Get numbers on it. I don't know if they'll be able to figure out that next. But, like,
I went out and bought master locks after this whole debacle, because I had to kill the first creature I've ever killed in my life. My first little chicken, Post Falls Gray, during this whole situation, because I name everything. And She was in the nest box. That chicken laid an egg every day, no matter what. It didn't matter. And she was in the nest box, and I saw she was the only one alive when I went out and viewed the carnage. And so, of course, I go out there and run into my house. I get the crate ready. I'm like, I'm going to save her, and go out. And I realized triage 911, like, there's no saving this bird. And I didn't know how to kill something humanely at the time. I took a shovel and I beat it, and
it's
it's
very it's very definitely hard to do that. I typically, for me, I've never been able to unalive one, but my dad does a lot of it. But I've gotten to the point where it is that, especially since not last year, geez, my years are so, I'm mixing everything together after everything is like, okay, what year is it? 2016? Right. Okay.
I wish. Wish you would 2016. Just getting older.
I know. But no, it's like separating that, because I obviously never thought I'd be wanting to do this whole agricultural chicken farming thing. But once we got chickens, I didn't want to take care of them at all. I was younger. We've been doing chickens for like 8 years now, 10 years. I don't know. I lost count. But like, I had one chicken, and it's just kind of after that, this one chicken, she's still alive, been my favorite chicken. She just taught me so many things throughout these years. And like, I never thought I'd love this life, but like, as you grow in it, like, you learn to love it. And like, separating, because as I loved it, I started loving the animals. And I started like, I have this problem with, I humanize things, okay? It's a problem. It is. It just is. Okay? I love my birds. I love them dearly. Each one of them have their names. I mean, I think they all have different personalities. Other people can say otherwise. Whatever.
Agreed.
I'm the one who's out there every day with them. I see it. So yeah, of course they have different personalities. I see it every day. But like, whenever a chicken would die, I cry. I cry, okay? Because I just put so much time, effort, love, and care into these birds. And it wasn't until 2022 that I learned to separate livestock and like pets. That's when I learned to separate it, because I'm like, okay, I love these animals. And while they're here on my property, I'm going to give them the best life that I can possibly give them. But I've also learned, like, when things die, like, it's a part of life. And I can't do anything. I had to accept that too. That was huge for me in 2022. I had to accept the fact that I can't save everything. And that broke me, because 2022 was probably one of the hardest years I've ever had to go through. Like, just a lot of things, but like with livestock, it was like the hardest thing for me, because I went from like this little girl who just loved her birds, never had an issue in her life, to just like this big kid who had to grow up super fast and be like, okay, how do I get this egg out of my chicken's butt?
That's what I've had to, it's been a lot of that for me too. I can't deal with the gross things. So my sister, who's younger than me, she all ready for it. Like, she has stuck fingers up places in chickens that you don't want your fingers. And I could
Sometimes you
never
gotta do what you gotta do. You want to save the bird, you gotta do it.
Amen. Amen.
It's not fun.
I actually performed an operation on a chicken once. What a nut job I am.
See, I couldn't do that. Oh, I couldn't do that. See,
Oh,
I've had to dissect, but mm-mm. There's that for me. It's like, okay, I'll do what I can, but like, at some point it's like, okay, I can't do much more, and I don't really want to go in there and do things, and no. Like, it's still a chicken, and they're placed in our possession for a purpose. And like, it's sad to me every time I lose one. And I do definitely shed a tear, even if it wasn't my favorite bird. I'm like, I tried to give you the best life I could. And I mean, that was another thing. I've held chickens while they were dying. Like, I always like saw people say, oh, she died in my arms. And I'm like, how do you do that? As I'm over here sobbing, it just starts to die, and I throw the chicken or set it down. I'm like, I can't do this. But
I
then
remember every
like,
person I've seen, every person held the hand of as they died or their last breath. And I think for me, from the oncology perspective, it's the suffering, the pain for me that gets me, because you can see that rot on people's faces with spinal mets or big traumas, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, it's super hard, and it's not that we'll ever fully accept like death is real, grief is real, and the loss is it's a real thing, and it's not like we'll ever fully accept it, be like okay with it. It's okay to not be okay with it. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be upset about it because reality is we're still humans and we have these emotions and we're supposed to feel this way for a reason. I mean, and I don't think we should, I don't know. Like there's like this like be all tough and attitude, but like it's okay to break. It's okay to break.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes the
that's where it's
toughest
like,
people
sure.
break, and it's like
Right,
you're
that's where
still
you learn the most
human.
about yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
We had
Yeah.
one instance last 2 years ago, 2 summers ago, I think, and it was this cat had kept getting into my coop and just kept taking babies. Like we had day old chicks out there. I mean, we get warm enough to where they can just go right out on grass with a little bit older chicks. Kept getting these chicks, and I was like, okay, what's happening? Like, there's no feathers. There's no. I mean, they're little, and I walked out there one morning, walked over to my mom because she was doing something, and I was like, something, 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 and then all I heard was screaming. A cat was running across the yard with one of the chicks in the cat's mouth, and I just stood there and I was like, I don't know what to do. My mom took off, ran into neighbors' yards and everything else, and she was like, "Give me back my chicken! Give me back my chicken!" And it was the chicken. I mean, I figured it was just going to be injured beyond whatever. I mean, she did pass away because it bit her in a place that's not good. But
And
I
shock
mean,
too, right? That'll get them fat for
Yeah.
and
anything.
yeah, and I mean, you still have to take care of them. Even during that time, we had one bird after a hawk attack killed two hens and then injured another one. She had a hole, like you could see all the way inside of her underneath of her wing, and it was middle of winter, which I got really lucky with that because no flies, no nothing like that.
Oh,
And
flies are the worst. Oh,
these,
those things, nightmare.
I
I've
won't.
had nightmares of it. Yeah, don't go into detail about those because I will have nightmares of it. I've
I'm
seen
not.
things. Ooh, oh
But
no.
she made, I mean, it took probably 2 weeks, but she made a full recovery. And now 3 years later, she's still here and she lays almost every single day. And
Yeah,
at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how you're even going to live with a hole in the side of your body. It closed up. Don't ask me how, but it did.
so yeah, I mean, I've got a story on my Instagram about that survivor chicken, right? I like
Mhm.
these kind of rare things, and Laish fighters are my favorite, like one of my favorite breeds. They're these big birds, and they call them hawk protectors. Uh, and you can get them from Greenfire Farms, is one of the big folks that import them, and I'd like to find some new genetics and start working on it. But side note, so Survivor chicken, this poor thing was born with its yolk sac unabsorbed actually on the
I've
outside of it.
seen that happen before.
Yeah.
Like I had a girl, like a couple, like she's asked me before, like, how do I fix this? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen that happen. Like, I don't know what
You
to
know,
do.
I put that little chicken into a um in the baiter into a little Tupperware, and I betadined the outside of its yolk sac. And I was busy working and stuff. I'm like, this thing's a goner, right?
Hmm.
Like, no, that thing wasn't a goner, man. Like, and this is a long story, so bear with me. So not a goner. So calendula is really great for healing. I get that purple paste. I forget what it's called, but
It is good. It is good. It
yeah.
good stuff. I'll use it sometimes when I get cracked or cuts or
All
stuff. I'll
right.
use it, dude. Yeah, it's
I'm
nice.
gonna grow that stuff in the
Oh
garden this year.
yes, for
Yeah,
sure,
right.
for sure.
So anyhow, like Survivor chicken, like I had to take care of her and separate her from her people, but I tried to make it so that in my brooder setup, she could still see them. That little bird, man, she was a go-getter, right? And she survived. She beat that odd because I think it's like a ophthalmos is what they opthal. I forget how to say things. I can see them though. That's just how my
Mhm.
brain works.
Mhm.
It's an infection risk when they're born with that yolk sac, and she survived that, and then she grew into be this beautiful Laish fighter. And there's a lot of Laish fighter stories I could tell you, but she then was the victim quite recently. We long story short, we had a dog. Our livestock guardian dog, Max, passed away of idiopathic epilepsy. I think it was probably a brain tumor because, of course, I resort to cancer about everything. But, I tried to save him, and he died, and that was back in August. And so this set off this thing because I'm like, well, I got to help Aurora. We started losing birds like crazy. And, when you have so much time, money, care invested in your birds, it's a big deal. And, and Aurora's working herself to the bone because that's just how she is. So I'm like, okay, we need a friend. So I get this little 6-week-old puppy off this gal. And it turns out the puppy had a different breed in him. Was not true livestock guardian dog. Backstory, the mom was 8 years old, I guess. And I think I remember the breeder saying a result of an accidental litter. And so what happens sometimes with that, and this is why the lesson I learned was to buy from a reputable breeder, because a couple different reasons, but the dog had probably a herding breed in it. That can happen commonly when it's not, a controlled situation. And I tried my darndest with this dog. Let me tell you what, like, to train it to birds, and it just wasn't going to happen, you guys. And I'm just not a shock collar person. I'm like more of a positive reinforcement,
Right.
And so, anyways, we now have Axel, who's amazing, and we unfortunately had to rehome the little puppy because I've got kids, and because kids, like, gates kept getting open, and and because of me, I'm not a perfect person either. And yeah, so I found that little puppy a better home. But during this instance, I was really green on training a livestock guardian dog too, right? Because I've got Aurora and Max. I didn't have to do much with those guys. They're just amazing. I love LGDs, but like true LGD, and
just born to do it. It's
yeah,
in their
right.
nature.
Oh, it's so cool, especially Akbosh. Don't even get me started. I love that breed. So, anyways, Survivor Chicken's out there playing, and I'm keeping an eye on Baron, being the dum-dum I am. Like, he's not on a leash, and I learned, from this whole situation. Well, I come across Baron, and he's got Survivor Chicken, and he's like eating this bird. Like, this poor bird
that's
is
not
getting
good.
eaten. No, right?
No, that's not good at all.
That's not good at all.
Survivor's got 9 lives. Geez, she's gone through the washer.
Will survive because this crazy nurse saved her again. That's when will I learn?
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
it's amazing.
We had one chicken. It was a meat bird. First year, no, it was the second year doing meat birds because I was trying to do it in a sustainable way instead of just buying new birds at the beginning of every year, hatching them out from Cornishes. And it took them a long time to start laying, but they started laying and I was able to successfully breed them, hatched out more than 100 chicks from them. Well, before my YouTube channel, so I was really upset about that, but whatever. I still have the knowledge. And this one chick was born with crossbeak, and I was like, okay, maybe you'll be okay. It's completely fine. And then I guess he was on the lower end of the totem pole, and the other chicks had pecked his head so bad that like you could see down to his skull.
Oh no.
And he stayed here for I think a year and a half, maybe 2 years. We ended up calling him Scully, which is a bad name to call something that's been through that. But it was
just traumatizing your poor chicken. Every time you call his name, you're just gonna think about his past tonight.
But he was an amazing bird. He wasn't right, but like it was completely fine. The crossbeak didn't affect him too bad. He was friendly with all the animals, and it was just a really great experience with that. So I was so glad that I had him as a starter bird for crossbeak and then other problems.
Yeah, isn't that cool how sometimes like the hardships in our lives actually teach us the biggest lessons?
Right.
Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
your wins, your losses become your wins in the end because honestly, you learned from it, and then maybe another time, then that'll succeed you in a win. So, like, yeah, I lost out a lot that one year, but I am so educated on it now. Like, I can now help other people. And that's why I love the podcast so much, because I'm able to teach people the things that I've learned from my experiences and my knowledge. And if anybody has questions, I want them to ask me, because I was there once with not a ton of help. And thank goodness I reached out to you, like you helped me out. I was reaching out to other people. I found people that help. You too, Zach. I was asking people, because it's like you can't do everything on your own, and like sometimes you need
Yeah.
help. Sometimes you need help, and like
Our
especially when
losses
you're
teach us more than our
yeah.
successes, in my opinion.
Yeah, especially when you're asking other people who have experience. It's also very helpful, because when you read articles on the internet or from a book, sometimes it can be misleading or difficult to understand. And when it's from somebody who has experienced it personally, and they've like, okay, this is how you do this. This is the correct way. They can walk you through it. And I'm super grateful for that, for the people that did help me through those years. But yeah, your losses, it sucks. But hey, get back up. There's more to do. You got stuff to do. That's the thing with animals, man. It'll knock you down, but hey, you got to get back up, because chores got to be done.
You
Right.
know it, right? Yeah, you know it. And sometimes, too, like it's kind of the interesting things. This is so not related, but I had this English teacher once. He scared the ever living daylights out of me. Advanced placement teacher, and he taught me so much. And I was like the kind of ADHD kid that would doodle, but it was how I like processed and learned things.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that I wasn't listening, but anyways, this teacher gives us an essay assignment, right about the essay was you need to write about the phrase, what does the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, mean? And so we all read it, yada yada. Well, fast forward a year or so later, this teacher had gastric cancer and he passed. So yeah, that's just yeah.
Right. It's your losses, like you said,
Yeah.
your losses will knock you down. But in the end, you're going to win at some point. It just might suck right now. You're going to win at
You
some
just
point.
gotta keep trying, man. I always say persistence pays.
It does. It
It
does. It
does.
does.
Those stupid medals up there from those running races.
So you had talked earlier about, or you had mentioned Sebastopol geese. Do you want to go into them a little bit?
Yeah. So
Of course.
Sebastipols, okay, so Sebastipols are kind of my selfish aspect of my farm. And not really, because they serve like a big purpose, but they tend to be a bit more on the expensive side, along with the Liege fighters and the LGDs. Okay, I need to figure that out, but they tend to be a bit more expensive, and the reason is because they're really rare. Like
Yeah.
true Sebastopol, they're pretty rare. You get a lot of crosses and not what, which is not to discredit that, because it doesn't mean because you're not breeding to standard that it's like the thing to do. I Sebastipols for me are kind of tie into like how I feel about climate change, and we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But it's that I believe that climate change is coming for us all, and is having children, and someday their children, if they choose to have children, that's going to be extremely important to preserve what's rare. Preserve all of us, really, preserve everything. Maybe I'll just not even care about the rarity when the weather's worse, but I like to preserve what's rare. Maybe that comes from the fact that I grew up with parents that hauled us to every single antique auction on the East Coast when I lived out in Connecticut and New Hampshire. But yeah, so I like them. They're rare, they're beautiful. And I'm really into them. I don't know why. I love how they look. I love geese. I love how they interact with each other. And you can learn the hierarchy there. And yeah, I'd like to work on the American Poultry Association, the APA's acceptance of the gray variety of Sebastopols. The grays are not true Sebastopol. The true Sebastopols, I have this extremely amazing mentor living down the road from me, literally. She is how
That's
I know.
convenient.
Oh
That's
my
very
awesome.
convenient.
guys, like I hit the gold mine with this lady. Seriously, I hope she
Yeah.
knows how I feel about her. Like, oh, I am so grateful for her. And she's like kind of the guru, right? I mean, everybody wants Jean's birds, Jean Ribic. And my in-laws live like down the road from her, and I'm driving one day to my in-laws' house, and I see a sign for Sebastopol geese out in the front of her house. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. Let's look it up. So that's how that started. And yeah, I am just one incredibly fortunate soul to have Jean, and to have too, like Kelly Fitzgerald. She gave me my smooth-breasted gray Sebastopol bird, who I have big plans for with my breeding going forward, Piper. And she's been really helpful. She knows a lot about the genetics, like so much more about the genetics and the charts and what you can get than I do. And then I've got Laura Huey. She is the spearhead of the National Sebastopol Geese Association, which is something everybody should check out if they're into the breed. Super important. I've got Vivian Malatesta. Probably said that wrong. Sorry, Vivian. She's kind of who I got my first little flock from, her and Kelly. And she's just been like seriously amazing, telling me about, like she was kind of the first one to teach me a whole lot and take time out of her day to do that. Just a rad lady. And then I have Barb Rudolph. So Barb's birds are like a rare treasure, especially on this side of the coast, especially on the West Coast. There's just not Barb genetics that are true. Here I am, the idiot I am. You guys, I paid so much money to get these two birds that I've got of Barb's over here. They came from the Ohio National, and I had a great transporter that transported them for me, Jason, and and his daughters, and just and basically Barb, you look at photos of this gal's birds and you just want them. She's the queen of the dark gray line, and I have one of her birds from the dark gray line, Neri. I'm obsessed with Neri. I went out and I'm like looking at her feet last night at 12:30 to make sure she doesn't have frostbite.
Dude, when you have that one prize thing, it's just like you cannot be injured, you cannot die. Right. It's like you have to like keep that thing safe, lock it up tight, and make sure it stays safe, man.
Oh my gosh, right? You're telling me.
And with the conserving the rare breeds, I started working with the Welsh Harlequin ducks because those are, I mean, they're a rare breed, but also so many people don't breed them right. You're not breeding for the actual standard for what they're supposed to be. And I was lucky because those can go for a lot, like very expensive. I've seen them, and I found somebody on Facebook who has a farm like 2 hours south from me, and we agreed to meet halfway, and she was selling hers for $10 a piece. She had a flock of like 10 that she would hatch out as many ducklings as possible and sell them to people who were wanting to get started. And that's where I started, and my birds are amazing in my opinion. But I've also put them in Facebook groups, and some people are like, they're not that good, but then other people, like I've had so many people who are just like, those are amazing birds, like you have great lines. That just someone getting started, I mean you can attest to this too. It's great to be able to have good genetics and good lines to where you're not gonna not mess up, but you want to preserve the breed the best as possible because you want it to last another 100 years, another 150 years or longer. And it's just important.
Well, yeah, I mean, and then there's kind of like another thing that I'm thinking with that is like humans have this propensity to want to control things, right? Man's obsession to control things. It's out of this song, it's a lyric, but I don't want my operation to get huge. It's just like I can't, because I've got so many irons in the fire, and it's gonna be hard to breed the Sebastopol because I can't afford to let it get huge, right? Yeah. So I'm not going to be your traditional breeder who holds back everything forever. Like I get to keep one if one, and I have to shuffle, you know what I mean?
And
But yeah, it's, I
that's
don't
with
know,
me
it's
with, I mean,
hard.
I live in a neighborhood and ducks are not the quietest thing. I got lucky with a rooster for a little while. That things happen with that. And the ducks, I'm thankful that I'm able to keep them quieter and they're fine, but it sucks. And I bought more last year. Did I need them? No, but I got them. And just looking at them and comparing them to the birds that I already had, they don't weigh up that well against the other two that I had previously had. So I'm going to have to depart with them, but I want to be able to keep better stock than something that's not going to do well ultimately. And then it's like, well, I want to keep the original two ducks that I had, but then it's like, it's so much. So I'm keeping keep one, hatch out, have it for a little while, and then just improve upon things and then keep going. But it is a lot to be able, like it's not a little decision to be like, oh, I'm gonna get rid of this bird or this bird. Like it's a big decision, and you know this.
Oh
It's
yeah,
never
it's
easy.
hard. Yeah, it's hard because we have so much, like we were talking about, emotional, maybe not as logical sometimes as we could be, invested into these birds and
Yeah.
these animals, you know?
You
We
put a
love
lot
them.
of
And
time and effort.
can I say something really quick? There's a movement, right? Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
movement amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that it ties to, for me personally, the climate change and the protection of my children in the
Right.
future. And that's the movement. I mean, that's why this is important. And I think I've done a poor job of that, honestly. I got so wrapped up in like, oh, I need all these things, like typical American, right?
Right.
And yeah, it's just been really cool to learn how one variable affects another and to get your setup
Mm-hmm.
and just learn. And at the end of the day, I think I get judged a lot for my farm. Maybe some of us do, I don't know,
Yeah.
by folks that don't have one. But at the end of the day, the question is like some bad boy virus comes down our turnpike because we have no control over the temps, and viruses always win because we don't know what they are. The stat when I was going to nursing school back in 2007 in a University of Washington micro lab was we only knew about 3% of the viruses that scientists thought there were in the world. And so as the climate changes, there's going to be weather virus, like things, variables. And so that we can't
Yeah.
control. So I think this movement is intelligence. I think
Mm-hmm.
it is not something to be judged or something strange.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Like a little girl told my daughter's 8, and I guess she's like, well, that's strange that you have a farm, and it
Right.
hurt my daughter's feelings, I
Right.
think
But
she was
honestly, whenever like the something happens, who's gonna be set in that reality? Who's gonna be set?
Right.
I've got a garden in my backyard. I've got seeds. I'm stocked up, and it is there is a movement. Ever since I think 2020 COVID hit and stuff, I think people realized like things could shut down, and it's real, and it's like it's scary, and to think that we're getting I don't know. I mean, I like to see people, especially the younger generation. I mean, me and Zach are both 18. Okay, so
Yeah.
like we're
nice, guys.
definitely young, definitely younger. But like to see people like leaving their corporate jobs and like deciding let's start a farm. Like I love to see that, and I like to see people have a passion for it. And we ourselves we can't do much now, but I mean we both have a goal and we both have a dream to own a farm one day because we know that for us that is so important to us that agriculture kind of it gives us purpose. We just feel like we just belong in that lifestyle, and it's like it's just such a beautiful thing. And I mean that's why we do a podcast too. We just want to
Right.
educate people because this is and along with the whole preserving, this is like it's a lost art, honestly. I think people have just gone into so much like the American lifestyle. Like you gotta get out of high school, you go to college, gotta make money, 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 and then what do you do after that? Like
Oh,
like for us, it's like
Yeah.
it's a lost art. And I like to see people, taking care of the land and stewarding uh God's creation and taking care of it. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and it is definitely I agree with the whole movement thing. I see people taking a hold of their outside, what they've had for how long. They're taking hold of this dirt that they've had in their backyard, and they're planting things, and they're tilling the soil, and they're
Yeah.
taking care of the earth in that area, and they're buying chickens, and providing for themselves, and it's just like being self-sufficient. I don't know, I get so hyped about it because it's just such a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful
Preach,
thing.
girlfriend.
I go
And
off, but it's beautiful.
And I think it's an intuition we have as human beings that love our planet and love our lives and want to protect our home, right? And we have to listen to intuition.
Yeah. And I say that a lot with, like, you mentioned people judging for your farm. I don't judge because, I mean, you can't really judge somebody based on their thing. You're doing what you have with the area that you have. My chicken coop is not the best. So many things are not the best or top, like whatever other people have. But I'm not going to judge somebody else for not having something right, unless that your birds are like clearly not taken care of, which
yeah,
that's a different thing. But I think a lot of people in the homesteading farming community, a lot of them don't judge, but then there are some people who are like fifth, sixth generation farmers, and they're like, oh, it has to be done this way.
But there's an example. Fifth, sixth generation farmers, they've been doing this their whole lives. You're first generation farmer. You don't fully know what you're doing, and you're using what you have. See, people could compare me and Zach. Zach, how big a land are you farming on?
Not that big, like half an acre, if
half
that.
an acre. And I'm over here. I'm very fortunate that my parents have more than that. I'm not saying we have a ton of land, but what we have, we're super blessed. And people can judge right there. We were able to build a barn, and we're not these big fifth, sixth generation like large agricultural like operations, no, but I mean Zach's using what he has, and I think that's a beautiful thing in itself, especially with urban farming and stuff. Like that's so cool, using what you have, making it efficient to what's best for you. It's like use what you have. And that judgment, I think, as a community, a homesteading farming community, we need to support each other and not bring each other down as much as there is that. Like, we all started somewhere. We all sucked at it at first, and I'm not saying I still suck. I'm not great at it. I'm not like, by all means, I'm not experienced. I'm not like this high god tier level farmer. I'm still learning. There's people that are better than me, and I accept that because I'm not perfect. I'm still human. I accept that, okay? But there's that judgment, and I despise it. I think as a community we need to be supportive of others, and especially with people who are just starting out, help them out. Don't criticize their, you're only farming on half an acre. Well, guess what? That's all I got. And you know what? I'm gonna work with it.
Or people say it's not a farm. Like I call this piece of property my farm because and in a sense it is, but it's also what brings me happiness, and it's pursuing what I can where I can. I don't think I use this term lightly, but I think a farm is more a feeling than a property. Whether I have
You go to Portland, Oregon, and you see the plants growing that people grow on the top of the skyscrapers. Guess what? That's a farm.
That's a farm, exactly.
That's awesome.
It may not look like your large field with cows in it and a big red barn. No, it's using what you have, and it's still farming, because I think farming in itself it's not this mindset. It's not this perfect picture. Farming it's growth, and it's taking care of the land and taking care of animals. And however you do that, however you see farming as, I think that's farming, and I think that's your farm, because to you, I mean, that's important to you. And if you want to call it a farm, call it a farm, because in my eyes, if you're skyscraper, patio, maybe you just have a little window box, that's growth. You're growing and you're learning, and it's all, I don't know. I get off on this topic and I just go.
Well, it's oxygen too, right? The world needs more plants. It's pretty basic science for our survival. You cut down all the trees, you cut down the rainforest. This isn't good. Let's not do that. I think, this generation too, it's about it's about reality. It's about the big dollar. It's about the bumper sticker I have on the back of my car. That's an old Cree saying, Cree Native American saying, where it's something, I'm not going to nail it, but it's only when the last fish has been caught, the last river has run dry, the last we're not gonna, we'll realize, the ending line is, we'll realize we can't eat money.
Yep.
Right.
100% agree with that.
Right. And so many people are like, I went to public school for a while. I'm homeschooled now. But there was so many people who, because we were in like this, it was this online thing right in the middle of COVID, because that's when I stopped. And they were like, because everybody was just like, post your biggest accomplishment for the year. And everybody was like naming off things in school or something that they had accomplished. It's like something that you can make money with. I posted a picture of my chickens and I was like, this is my biggest accomplishment. And everybody's just like, that's a chicken. And I was like, but that's my accomplishment. That's something that I want to do.
Yeah.
And other people have since gotten chickens, and I've been like, you told me this was dumb, but you just got them. I won't say anything, but like, it's still there.
Right.
But
I think that's
still,
also, it's also there for like us. We're both graduating this year. And I think everybody's just like, oh, so you going to college? You going to college? And I'm like, I don't want to go to college, because for me, I'm like, I don't think I'd use a degree unless I did like an actual agricultural, but I don't want to be this big operation for agriculture. I don't want to sell my produce to Walmart. I don't want to do that. I just want to be a backyard farmer and provide food, good food for my family and for my home. And like, that's what I want to do. And I feel like people, they like, why don't we want to go to college? Like, because what, everybody does that? I'm sorry, but I'm gonna be different.
right.
Yeah, hey, good for you. Like, don't be that person that lets the norm tell you what to do, because the norm's going to change a lot, especially with this movement. I think, at least I hope. I envision this day, because this is where I go sometimes. This probably part of my like bipolarness is there's extremes, right? I have all this extremism that I recognize, and in my 30s we'll work on it. But I on an extreme level, I worry that, things we can't control make it so that someday money is obsolete. But is that a worry, or would that be a good thing?
Right.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, a lot of people got by. I'm not saying like no money, but like, how were things before? The Indians did not eat like the Indians. I use a lot of Native American practices. My great great grandmother was, I think, 50% Indian or something, black hair till the day she died in her 90s. And she did all these things, and it's, they had no need for money. You don't, it's something that we've come up with in our own world that you don't need. Let's get back to I was talking with my grandmother the other day. She was like, I didn't have money to get my kids the shots that they needed, like the flu shots or whatever, forever ago. And she was like, I would give them the vegetables that I grew, or the milk that we produced, or the eggs, or meat, or whatever.
That's huge too. Going back. That's huge. Getting back to those old practices, because like, how did people do it back then? It worked for them. Right. Let's get back to that, because it was a lot simpler then. I feel like we've just really overcomplicated things.
It's too much, guys. It's too masaki, right? I mean, that's my Spanish. Like, it's too much here. It's too much. Not that I know Spanish.
Stressful.
It's stressful, and it's killing us. Stress, not sleeping.
My gosh, yeah.
No, it's making us a very sick society. Like, and I'm really like, I love the health thing. I think nursing is more of a career that chose me, that I didn't choose. But dang, I'm rolling with it at this point in my life. It's taught me so much.
Right.
Yeah. And you don't, Reagan and Zach, you guys are young. My 2 cents. You decide what speaks to your heart or your mind, whatever is important to you, and you go after that and have some tenacity with it, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
It's
100%. 100%.
Right. And I'll use an example here. My dad grew up in the automotive business, works on cars every single day. He has come home countless times. Like, my brother wants to be a mechanic, but he's good with stuff like that. My brain cannot handle that at all. But like, he has come home multiple times and he's like, I don't want you guys to get caught in that, because his family had owned the business and whatever. And he was like, I don't want you guys to do that. It's not, it's work, but it's not something that he necessarily would have done. It was just what he grew up in. So it was like kind of like a sixth sense in a way. He was like, I don't want you guys to fall into anything that you don't want to do. You have to
Patterns.
do what you want to do.
Patterns. And I
Yeah.
think that's huge with
Right.
today's day and age. I think we need to I see people, breaking out of patterns. I'm not saying like all of them are good things. There's a lot of things in this world. I'm not saying it's all a good thing. But I see people breaking out of patterns and we're making a change and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. But from the agricultural side of it, seeing people take hold of their land, seeing people leave their corporate jobs, their stressful lives, their American mindset, and actually going back to the root,
The
the
actual
root.
American dream.
Exactly, which is farming and
Exactly.
tilling the
Yeah.
land and
And
taking care
freedom.
of it and freedom. Yep.
No, for sure. Yeah, that's great, and it's going to be imperative. It's going to be, I have this sense of like urgency about this whole climate thing.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. And I still want to know so much more. James Baylog, I want to throw a shout out to that man. If you've never seen Chasing Ice or the Human Element movie, I believe National Geographic sponsors those. Those are big ones to watch. That everybody in America should sit down, turn off their football game, turn off the opera or whatever, and just sit down and watch that and have a conversation about it afterwards. That would be so important, in my opinion. I tend to be highly opinionated. I should probably tone it down sometimes, but
There's
yeah.
Like
a lot of things.
I was talking with my great grandfather last night because my great grandmother had made dinner for all of us, and we were talking to him, and he was like, I remember when Virginia used to get 2 foot of snow in this area, because he used to live here before they moved around and then moved back. And I was like, I've never seen that in Virginia. When was that? And he was like,
Right.
that was forever ago. And some places like Pennsylvania, it's not that big of a thing.
But
Central Virginia,
I will say that I've gotten less snow recently
exactly.
since
Like,
what I knew. We had
and
snow in November and
yeah,
we didn't get snow till January. Like that's a
and
first.
Central Virginia, we got the past 2 or 3 years, we've had days for a week straight and longer in the hundreds.
All
Not,
strange, right, guys? But can I be honest with you, as my really intelligent father, who used to be a doctor, tells me, it's not climate change, it's climate changed. It's not strange weather anymore, is what I like to tell people. I say it's the new norm, and let's be grateful that this is as bad as it is right now.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think people are, I mean, you said it, but people are starting to see that. They're starting to see that things we do have repercussions, whether they're
Uh-huh.
immediate or lifelong. They do. And you have to not just take a stance on it, but you have to try to better yourself and better like your own area. Try to do what you can where you are. And that's really
Yeah.
what, I mean, a lot of farmers are doing in general, are doing what you can where you are, cutting back on waste products and raising things ethically and doing different things. And a lot of people don't. Some people prefer to go get their food from the grocery store, and some people that's all they can do. But it's, you cut back in places where you don't need to have that extra luxury that you think that you might need.
So my next tattoo, not that I'm covered in them, which is fine if you are. My next one is going to be a saying, convenience kills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I mean by that. And um anyhow, so and I want to touch on not the negative Nancy side of it. There's a lot of hope. And my hat's off to your generation who, you guys are in school, you're learning, your brains are way cooler than mine at this point. And
Sometimes not really. Sometimes
ah,
they're
well, nobody's
taken.
perfect, right? But but yeah, I think that there's a lot of hope.
Mm-hmm.
There's this hope that um, you know, folks are going to figure it out. And that awareness, like, plastic eating bacteria, new medications that we can utilize, learning from the past and learning for
Right.
what we were lucky to get from our parents' generation, and then paying that forward.
Yeah. And we've talked to a lot of people here with this series, and they've all said kind of the same thing. Like, a lot of people didn't grow up in this life, and they're talking to their grandparents or their great grandparents, or talking to older people, trying to learn all they can, because I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what you have to do. Books are going to be great, the internet's great, but it's so much different than firsthand accounts of things.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to just learn where you can. I have picked my great grandparents' brains so many times on certain things, like, how did you do this? And sometimes she can tell me, sometimes she can't, but it's so many different things that you're taking things from here, there, and everywhere. My great grandfather traveled to almost every single state looking or working at different places. He worked at Del Monte. He worked for small private orchards. He worked for so many like big places, small places, everything. And he has so much knowledge that I have tried to get a hold of. Some of it he's reluctant to share at times, but he's been through a lot, and his experiences are so unique because he went out and did those things and tried to better what he was doing.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah.
So I think we're coming down to the last couple of minutes here, this episode. But there's one question we like to ask at the end of every episode, just to see everybody's perspective. What would you say your favorite thing about this lifestyle is?
My favorite thing is the protection that it can someday give my children and their children. And it's the knowledge. So I grapple with going back to school all the time because I have this brain, right, that just like wants to eat all of the medical things that I read about.
Mm-hmm.
I have these books over here that I was going to show you guys, like, that I like to read.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me because, it's like the money thing, right? Should I go back and go into debt? It is my belief that this is my gift to my children, and I'm not nailing it 100% of the time. And in the sense that, I'm not succeeding 100% of the time. But I'm doing the best I can, and I just want to help everybody,
Yep. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. So thank you so much for joining us here on this episode. We really enjoyed our time. And I hope that everybody watching this, that it's helpful to you as well. But yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, you guys. You're rad.com.
Thank you. You are too.
So, yeah, so we'll have all her links in the description. Do you have any specific things that you'd like to share with them, though? Like any links or your usernames for anything?
Sure. If you guys want to check out like my Instagram account, I'm more active on Instagram as a social media platform than Facebook. But I have a page for each, and it's little _ dove _ acres.
And we'll have all the links underneath in the description for you guys. So if you guys want to go check her out, those will be there.
Yes.
But thank you everyone for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will see you all in the next one. Bye.
Thank you both. Bye.